Hey everyone, it's Lulasai. I am here with a review for Iron Man, the original, very first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Now, of course, it's not the first Marvel movie ever, but it's the first MCU movie to be part of something interconnected, and we all know what's going to happen, right? I finally got this camera up and running. I had to do some repairs on it, and I got lucky. I don't know why it just started working right now, but I just got lucky, I think. So hopefully it stays working. Yeah, so the plot is that we are following Tony Stark, who is a billionaire war profiteer, and he gets a first-hand experience of the negative impacts of what his company's manufactured weapons do. And he gets, real up close and personal, and actually gets abducted by a terrorist group, an Afghan terrorist group called the Ten Rings. And the leader of this group, Raza, is trying to force Tony to make him a one of Tony's latest, newest and best missiles, which is called the Jericho missile. And Tony pretends to play along, but in reality, he is conspiring with his fellow captive, whose name is blanking on me right now, but he's a great character. And the two of them are actually building this suit of armor. So this iron suit of armor, which is going to help them get out. I say them, but really, I don't know, me personally, I was like, there isn't room for two in there, so I'm not sure how two is supposed to escape, but that's the idea, at least. That's the wishful thinking. So, but eventually, it's not really a spoiler, because, this is how we get the origin of Iron Man. So eventually, Tony does escape, and when he gets home, this is where he has a rude awakening about himself and his company, Stark Industries, and realizes that he needs to pledge to cease all weapons manufacturing immediately, and he becomes a true philanthropist that he was meant to be. He goes through a complete character arc about becoming a better person, and that's basically it. So he realizes that his true destiny is to become a superhero by the name of Iron Man, and he lives to defend others, and he's less selfish, less egotistical, like he was at the beginning of this movie. So, that's the gist of it. There's other characters. I could tell you about the other characters. There's Pepper Potts, who is a perfect sidekick for Tony. She is the assistant, basically, to his life. It's a good thing it's a movie, because if this similar dynamic was happening in real life, someone might be getting in trouble. Just because Tony is in such an authoritative position over her, but regardless, she is a very good sidekick, and she will become a lot more notable, even more notable is what I should say, in the future. That's really, I can say that about everyone here, but we also have Rhodes, or Rhodey. He is I don't even know. It's hard for me to even think about this character because of how retconned and irrelevant he's going to become, but he's basically just an American military man who's friends with Tony, and he's going to get recast in the very next Iron Man movie, and we'll talk about that more later. And we also have Obadiah Stone, who played by Jeff Bridges, who is Rhodes. I don't think I mentioned all the cast yet, but we have Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrence Howard, and Jeff Bridges. Those are the main people here. So Jeff Bridges is one of... both of Tony's parents have passed away at this point. So the person who was his mentor is Obadiah Stone, who is... it's not really... This is a pretty old movie, right? I think you'll forgive me. He will turn into the Ironmonger. So really the series' first true villain, or I guess second villain. But again, Raza, he's not really in it. The Ten Rings are going to become something completely different in the future. So it's almost hard to... this movie, if we're being honest, has not aged the best, just because of, Terrence Howard, the Ten Rings, the retconning, And the fact that this movie was very gritty, realistic, post 9/11, yeah, it's very much a black sheep within the MCU, but not a bad one. Not a bad one like the Incredible Hulk is. So let's go ahead and start with the positives. So the first half of this movie is incredible. Honestly, the first half is like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. It is just so different from the average superhero movie. There's nothing else like it. It is just straight up gritty, adult themed, and just intense. There's even some jump scares here and there. Like not really like horror ones, but just like shock moments that you don't expect, and they're kind of, you know, it's almost like a war movie at times. It's not a war movie by any means, but it can feel like one sometimes. And or maybe it is a war movie actually, depending on how you look at it. And it's a pretty realistic one, despite being a movie about Iron Man and based on Marvel characters, right? It is pretty serious, and that's its best strength, really. Well, no, that's his second best strength. So its second best strength is how serious and gritty and dark it is, and adult themed it is. The first greatest strength, the best thing with the movie, is the character of Tony Stark. And so Tony's fantastic. He goes through a complete character arc that's actually really believable, has a lot of emotional impact. But even better than the character is the actor portraying him. So Robert Downey Jr., extremely charismatic, just lots of clever, witty lines, just fun to watch in general. So great main character here, obviously. Yeah, so the first half of the movie is like almost a 10 out of 10. It might as well just be a 10 out of 10. I don't even have to say almost. First half of the movie is a 10 out of 10. Second half of the movie is like a 6 out of 10, in my opinion. Or maybe a 7. Meme not intended. It sucks that every time I say the numbers 6 or 7, it has to mean something now. It doesn't. I remember a time when those numbers just meant nothing, and they were just regular numbers. But anyways, yeah. So just very dark, gritty, realistic, great leading man, good supporting sidekick, and just like very unique and different. Very not edgy in a bad way, but edgy in a realistic, respectful way. That is taking itself serious, and that's again another strength of this movie is just the fact that it is a black sheep, but not like Incredible Hulk black sheep. This still like feels like it belongs within the MCU, but it's just so different, and it's a unique experience you won't find with any of the other MCU movies. So highly recommend it. It is a very good movie. For the and there's also some excellent scenes. I mean, there's a lot of good jokes in here, genuinely funny jokes, and there is some like some of the scenes really, really are gonna leave an impression on you, like the Jericho missile one that you're seeing in the background here, where he's like testing it out. That's what I love about going back to this one, actually, even though I said it didn't necessarily age the best. I love going back to the old Tony Stark and seeing his roots, because he's way more just like egotistical, but not in an annoying way, just kind of in an endearing way, which is kind of a contradictory thing to say, but that's the truth because of how great Robert Downey Jr. is. So yeah, I like to see the old version of Tony before he becomes the respectable defender of humanity that we know him as. Which, I mean, he spends most of the time as that in this, but you know what I mean. So yeah, but the scenes that I really, really like are the very last scene before the credits happen. Literally the very last scene. Just genius. The whole scene was just genius. And then this is also the first credits stinger. And it is one of the best ones. It's pretty short, but it is impactful, memorable, and setting a precedent that we're all going to get used to. Okay, so negatives. Second half of the movie. Here's the thing, the second half of the movie, it's not bad, it's not unwatchable, it's just not as good as the first half. So the second half to me, so the first half is this adult-themed, gritty, kind of borderline scary at times, just hyper-realistic, like war scenario, or I guess like POW scenario. Not technically of war, but you know what I mean. Maybe he is. I don't know. We don't need to get caught up on semantics and definitions, but yeah, so it goes from this super gritty, one-of-a-kind, you've never seen anything like this before, super mature, great surprise character whose unfortunately name I'm forgetting right now. I think it was like, started with a Y, I think. But we go away from that and we go towards the more standard, happy-go-lucky, everything's gonna be okay kind of superhero movie stuff that we're used to. It's not unwatchable. There's plenty of, I mean, most of these scenes are required. I mean, Iron Man would not you know, where the whole point of this movie is to establish Iron Man. It's not called something else. It's not called like, you know, Warfare. I'm thinking of that one movie on my shelf, Warfare, that was directed by that one war veteran, right? That's a great movie, but that movie's doing something completely different. So I'm not saying Iron Man should be more like Warfare or a different war movie or whatever, but it just sucked because it was something so unique and great, and then it turns into something else, which is that normal standard Iron Man stuff. Yeah, it's not unwatchable. It's just not that great. This is not a movie you go back to for the action. This is, you know, probably the weakest superhero stuff other than Incredible Hulk, maybe like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm sure there's some more, but you know, this is not particularly strong action or visuals. It's mostly at nighttime to save budget during important scenes, although there is some daylight scenes with flying as well, but yeah. So basically, to sum it all up, second half of the movie, not as good. Not terrible, not unwatchable, but not as good. It's just too lighthearted and comical and the complete opposite of what came before it. It still exists for a purpose. It's still carrying on the character transition of Tony, and many of those scenes are important and are going to be called back to in the future. So I'm not saying we have to drastically change it. I'm just saying, fact of the matter is, second half is not as good. Another negative is some of the characters. So I'm not just saying this because he gets recast, and I'm also not saying this because he allegedly thinks that 1 times 1 equals 2 or something like that. That doesn't matter to me. Purely within the movie, I do not find Rhodes as an interesting character at all. There's no passion in his eyes. There's just nothing for me to cling on to with him. I think he's extremely uninspired and uninteresting. Also, Obadiah Stone. So Jeff Bridges, he's the GOAT, right? But honestly, not the best villain, if I'm being honest. I think Raza was a way better villain in this. Maybe Raza was like hitting too close to home for Americans in particular. So maybe that's why they didn't portray him more or like, you know, make him more prominent. But I thought Raza was a better villain, just superior performance actually too. So I thought Raza was pretty good, even though he is kind of representing something really bad in real life, technically. But he's like the minor villain that doesn't really get a lot of screen time. The major villain, the real main villain here is Ironmonger. And Obadiah Stone, I don't know. Something about him just doesn't work for me. He's just like so he's like the ultimate villain archetype stereotype. Like he is literally the default villain in every character customizer or something like that. And it gets worse though because I could have forgave him if it was just his human character, I guess, but they give him this you know, Ironmonger suit, and it might be the worst battle of the entire MCU. Again, maybe other than Ant-Man and Wasp, which Ghost is pretty bad in that movie, but we can just say the final battle of this movie is one of the worst in the entire series, and it kind of drags, to be honest. Even though this movie is pretty close to being the same length as all the other MCU movies, this one feels longer than the other ones because it just starts to drag, particularly towards the end, because it's just not a good fight. The intrigue was long gone after Tony had come back from home safe and is now deciding to pledge himself to good, right? And to do better and be a better person. After that all happens, it's like the movie may as well be over, but it has to keep going for XYZ reasons. So we get this formulaic CGI boss battle at the end that just does nothing for me at all. We have Pepper, who is... Actually, I guess Pepper technically helped save the day, so I'll take that back. I was going to say that Pepper's a little bit of a damsel in distress, but actually not really. So I guess that's fine. But yeah, I'm going to give the original Iron Man from 2008, directed by Jon Favreau, if I forgot to mention that. Hopefully I did. I don't remember now. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, which feels pretty harsh because this is a legendary movie, very iconic. But the fact of the matter is, the second half is just so much weaker than the first half. Yeah, it can't be ignored. It's too great of a change. It's like watching two entirely different movies by two different directors with two different skill levels and then meshing them together. That's what watching this feels like. It's not bad, it's not unwatchable, it's just very uneven. Yeah, and I will just say that I am glad that Rhodes gets recast in the future, but I did not hold that against this movie in particular. I'll be interested when I watch Incredible Hulk. I'll see if the same thing holds true for Edward Norton, because I pretty much knew going into this that yeah, I wasn't a fan of this Rhodes, but I actually don't know if I am a fan of the Edward Norton's Bruce Banner or not. I'll let you know when we get there. So thank you for watching this review, 8 out of 10 for Iron Man, and I will see you next time.